I don't know why I'm even writing this. Maybe because I haven't slept properly in 2 days. Maybe because my head feels like a washing machine that won't turn off. Or maybe because telling strangers on the internet is easier than talking to the people who actually know me. Whatever the reason, here we go. The whole mess started with one sentence. One stupid, heavy, relationship-ending sentence. I don't owe you an explanation. That's what she said when I asked her where she'd been the entire night. Not who she was with. Not why she didn't text. Not why she came home at 5 a.m. Just where she'd been. And before you imagine me screaming or throwing accusations. No, I wasn't even angry at first. I was worried. The kind of worry that crawls under your skin and sits in your stomach like a stone. She'd never disappeared like that before. Even on bad days, even when she needed space, she'd send at least a "don't wait up" text. This time, nothing. Radio silence until dawn. I remember the exact moment she walked through the door. I was sitting on the couch, wrapped in this old, ugly blanket her mom gave us last Christmas. I wasn't trying to stay awake. I just couldn't fall asleep. Every 10 minutes I'd check my phone, even though I knew she hadn't messaged. Every creak outside made me jump. Every car that slowed near our building made my heart race. You know those nights where time feels like it's dripping instead of passing? That was me from midnight to 5 a.m. Then I heard the keys. You'd think I'd feel relief, but the second she stepped inside, something fell off. She didn't look tired. She didn't look relieved to be home. She didn't even look like someone who realized she'd been gone long enough to scare the hell out of her partner. She looked startled, like I was the one who wasn't supposed to be there. She froze in the doorway, her hand still on the doorknob, and for a second we just stared at each other. And I swear on everything, I saw something in her face, something sharp and guarded, like she was bracing for impact. Except I wasn't planning to throw anything. "Where were you?" I asked. Not with malice, not with suspicion, just concern. Confusion. The most basic question someone can ask the person they live with. She exhaled this long, annoyed sigh, like I'd interrupted something important, and tossed her jacket onto the nearest chair. Then she said it. "I don't owe you an explanation." Flat. Cold. Final. She walked past me toward the bedroom, leaving that sentence hanging in the air, thick and sour. I didn't follow her. I didn't try to argue. I didn't say anything at all. I just sat there listening to her moving around, opening drawers, closing the closet door, dropping something on the floor, and I felt something I hadn't felt in the entire 3 years we'd been together. Distance. Not the physical kind. The kind where the person you love suddenly feels like a stranger wearing their face. Hours passed. She went to sleep without another word. I stayed on the couch because I couldn't lie next to her after that. Not out of pride, but because the silence between us felt like a wall, and I had no idea how to climb it. I thought the next morning would bring clarity. Maybe she'd apologize. Maybe she'd explain. Maybe we'd fight. At least, fighting means someone still cares enough to argue. Fighting means something still exists to save. But I never got the chance to ask her anything the next day. Because the next day, I wasn't there. Not because I packed a bag and stormed out. Not because I wanted to teach her a lesson. I wasn't playing games. I wasn't even thinking about the relationship at that point. Something else happened. Something that pulled me out of that apartment before I could even decide what I wanted to say to her. Something that flipped my entire world upside down faster than her sentence ever could. But before I get to that, let me tell you what the night should have looked like. We were supposed to have dinner together. Pizza and a movie. Something simple. We'd both had long weeks, and she said she wanted a quiet night in. She even texted me in the afternoon. "Pick a horror movie. I'll bring dessert." But around 8 p.m., she messaged. "Running late. Don't wait to eat." That wasn't strange. She worked unpredictable hours sometimes. I ate without her, watched an episode of something mindless, played a bit of a game, waited. At 10 p.m., I texted. "Everything okay?" No answer. At midnight, I tried calling. No answer. By 2 a.m., worry had swallowed every other emotion. By 4 a.m., I convinced myself something terrible had happened. By 5 a.m., I just felt numb. And then she walked in like she'd taken a stroll around the block. When she went to bed, I almost woke her up to force an answer. Just something, anything to make the panic of the night feel justified. But I didn't. I told myself I'd talk to her when the sun was up. But the sun came up, And then something else happened, something urgent, something unexpected, and I wasn't there to ask her anything. I know, I'm dragging it out. But trust me, what happened next wasn't something I could have predicted even in my worst paranoid moments. Because the next day didn't just give me answers to where she'd been. It made me realize that the person I thought I was living with wasn't who I thought she was at all. That I wish I could say I left the apartment the next morning because I finally grew a backbone or because I wanted to make some dramatic statement like people do in movies. But the truth is a lot less cinematic and a lot more chaotic. My phone rang at 6:43 a.m. I remember the exact time because the sound nearly sent me into cardiac arrest after a night of basically no sleep. I thought it was her at first, maybe finally ready to talk, maybe apologizing, maybe explaining why she'd walked in at dawn smelling like cold air and distance. But no, her name wasn't on the screen. It was my brother. We're not super close. Not because we don't get along, just because life got busy and adulthood swallowed us whole on opposite ends of the city. So when he calls before 7 in the morning, something is wrong. I answered immediately. "Hey," he said, sounding out of breath. "Are you up?" "Yeah," I lied. "What's going on?" "It's Mom." Those two words sucked all the warmth out of the room. My mother is the kind of woman who lives like she's immortal. She hikes mountains for fun, eats vegetables like they're candy, and once broke her wrist ice skating at 63 and laughed the entire way to the hospital. So when my brother's voice cracked after saying her name, I knew it wasn't going to be something small. "She collapsed," he said, "at the cafe near her place. They're taking her to St. Luke's. I'm heading there now." I didn't even think. I didn't change clothes. I didn't pack anything. I just grabbed my keys and left. I didn't wake my girlfriend. I didn't write a note. I didn't knock on the bedroom door or even look inside. It wasn't intentional. I wasn't trying to ignore her. My brain switched to emergency mode. All the questions, all the confusion, all the anger from the night before, it all evaporated instantly. In hindsight, yeah, this is the part where someone might think, well, she'll definitely think you stormed off. But at the time, my only thought was, get to the hospital. The world outside felt wrong. Too bright. Too normal. Like the universe didn't get the memo that my life was in free fall. By the time I got to the hospital, my brother was pacing the hallway like a madman. He's usually composed, calm, the rational one. Seeing him fidget and mutter under his breath was almost worse than hearing the news itself. We sat there for hours. Neither of us talked much. There's something about hospital chairs that makes you feel both helpless and guilty at the same time. Like you should be doing more, but there's nothing to do. And the entire time, I kept checking my phone, waiting for a message from her. Even something short, even something passive-aggressive. I knew she'd wake up and find me gone and make whatever assumption she wanted, and part of me wanted to stop that moment from happening. Around 9 a.m., I finally texted her. "Emergency with my mom. At the hospital. I'll update you later." No response. I stared at that message like it was some kind of lifeline. I watched as the delivered status sat there, unchanged, unanswered, like a tiny digital reminder that something was very wrong between us. My mom eventually stabilized. They told us it was dehydration combined with low blood sugar and stress. Easy to manage, but scary when it hits all at once. She joked about it the moment she woke up, of course. That's her. The woman could be on fire, and she'd still try to lighten the mood. At some point, while my brother was telling her some story about work, I checked my phone again. Still nothing. No reply. I don't know exactly why that bothered me so much in the moment. Maybe because the night before she'd been the one keeping me awake with worry, and now she couldn't spare even a got it or hope she's okay. Maybe because I was exhausted and running on fumes. Maybe because it was the confirmation of a feeling I'd been trying to ignore for months, that whatever connection we once had was slipping. By early afternoon, I realized I needed to go home eventually, even if the thought made my stomach twist. I didn't want my mom worrying about me on top of everything else, so I told her I'd be back later. On the drive home, I kept rehearsing what I'd say to my girlfriend. Something calm, rational, something like, "Look, last night scared me, and what you said hurt, but I'm not trying to control you. I just want honesty." Yeah, something like that. But when I opened the door to our apartment, all that preparation went straight out the window. The place was quiet. Still. Too still. Her shoes were gone from the hallway. Her jacket wasn't on the chair where she dropped it last night. The coffee mug she always used in the mornings wasn't on the counter. At first I thought she'd just stepped out for errands. Or maybe gone to work early. Or maybe taken a walk. She did that to clear her head sometimes. So I went to the bedroom. The closet door was hanging open, and on the floor was a small pile of empty spaces where her stuff used to be. Shoes missing. A couple of shirts gone. Her favorite hoodie nowhere in sight. But what really made my stomach drop was the drawer on her side of the bed. The one where she kept her journal, her rings, her passport, random receipts she swore were important. It was half open and completely empty. Not messy, not rearranged. Empty. I checked the bathroom. Her toothbrush was gone. I checked the shelf. Half her skincare stuff was gone. I checked the kitchen. The snacks she liked, the weird tea she drank, all gone. I just stood there in the middle of the apartment, surrounded by silence. And for the first time in 3 years, it didn't feel like our place anymore. It felt like my place. And not in a good way. My phone buzzed then, finally. A message from her. But instead of relief, I felt this strange coldness. It was one sentence. Just one. We need to talk, but not there. That's it. No explanation. No context. No apology. And suddenly, the panic from a night before mixed with the exhaustion from the hospital and the confusion of the empty drawers, and something inside me snapped. Because whatever she wanted to say, whatever she'd been doing the night, she came home at 5 a.m., whatever she was hiding behind that cold sentence, it was all leading to something. Something big. And I had a horrible feeling that whatever she wanted to talk about, it wasn't just an argument or a breakup. It felt like the beginning of something deeper, darker, and much more complicated that I stared at her message for a long time. We need to talk, but not there. My apartment, our apartment, was suddenly the wrong place to talk? Why? What could she possibly need to say that she couldn't say in the place we'd shared for years? I kept rereading it, waiting for my brain to make sense of it. But it didn't. Instead, it kept replaying the image of empty drawers and missing shoes, the hollow echo of the apartment, the way everything seemed to scream she left even though I didn't want to believe it. I typed a dozen different responses before deleting them all. The first one was angry. The second confused. The third borderline pathetic. Eventually I settled for, "Where?" She replied instantly. As in, within 5 seconds. That alone freaked me out more than anything else. Because she'd ignored me for half a day, but now she was responding like she'd been waiting with the phone in her hand. Her answer was short. At the riverfront. The bench near the old boathouse. A weird choice. Not a cafe. Not a park. Not a public spot with people around. The riverfront was quiet, kind of isolated, especially on weekdays. The old boathouse area was basically abandoned except for joggers and the occasional dog walker. I won't pretend I wasn't anxious. My chest felt tight the whole way there. The drive took 12 minutes, but it felt like 30. My mind was spinning with every worst-case scenario imaginable. Was she breaking up with me? Was she sick? Was she in trouble? Was there someone else? Or worse, was this about something that had nothing to do with the relationship itself? When I pulled into the gravel lot near the boathouse, I spotted her immediately. She was sitting on the bench, hunched over, elbows on her knees, staring at the water like the river might give her answers. It was the posture of someone waiting for something they really didn't want to deal with. I got out of the car slowly, half expecting her to look up, but she didn't. She stayed still until I was close enough to touch her. Only then did she finally lift her head. She looked different, not in a dramatic, movie-worthy way. She just looked tired, pale. Her expression was tight, like she was holding her face together with metaphorical tape. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey," she echoed. There was a moment, one of those painful, thick silences, where neither of us moved, like we were two people waiting for a referee to blow a whistle none of us wanted to hear. Finally, she spoke. "I'm sorry I wasn't there this morning." Her voice cracked slightly, which surprised me. She didn't crack easily. "My mom collapsed," I said quietly. "That's where I was." She nodded. "I know. That threw me. You know." She inhaled, shaky and uneven. "I woke up and saw your message. I didn't know what to say." "What do you mean you didn't know what to say?" "Hope she's okay would have worked." She winced like she deserved the jab. Maybe she did. I wasn't trying to hurt her, but it slipped out anyway. Last night, I continued. You came home at 5 in the morning. You brushed me off. And then I come home today, and half your stuff is gone. What am I supposed to think? I didn't leave, she said quickly, almost defensively. I took some things, yes, but I'm not leaving you. I needed space to think. I stared at her, waiting for something real, something concrete, something that made sense. Instead, she whispered, there's something I haven't told you. My stomach dropped. Okay, I said carefully. Then tell me. She rubbed her hands together nervously, another thing she rarely did. She was usually composed, confident, annoyingly calm, even during arguments. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she said. I didn't plan it, and I don't expect you to understand. Yesterday spiraled out of control. My chest tightened again. Where were you last night? She closed her eyes. I can't tell you that. Not yet. Not yet. I scoffed. Are you serious? You disappear all night, refuse to explain, then pack half your things and leave me a cryptic text, and you still can't answer the most basic question. You don't understand, she said, her voice rising just slightly. If I tell you everything right now, you won't believe me. Or worse, you'll get involved. And I can't have that. I'm trying to protect you. Protect me? That word hit differently. It wasn't the typical excuse someone uses when cheating or hiding something stupid. There was something earnest in her voice, fear, even. What do you mean protect me? I asked. From what? She shook her head. I thought I could handle it. I really did. And last night I thought it was over. I thought things would go back to normal. But they didn't. My brain was chasing shadows at this point. None of this was making any sense. Are you in danger? I asked. Her silence lasted too long. Long enough that I had to repeat myself. Are you in danger? She finally whispered. Not just me. The air between us changed. It thickened. It grew cold. What does that mean? I asked. Please, just tell me what's going on. She looked at me then. Really looked. Her eyes were red at the edges, like she'd been crying earlier. She swallowed hard, like whatever she was about to say was physically painful. I didn't come home last night because I couldn't. I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, with people I shouldn't have been with. And I didn't tell you because if anyone knew, you'd be dragged into it. And you can't be. Dragged into what? She shook her head again, frustrated, afraid. It's complicated, then uncomplicated. My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. She reached out to touch my hand, stopped halfway, and let her fingers fall. I'm being watched, she whispered. My entire body went still. Watched? By who? I can't say, she said. I know how that sounds. I know you think I'm being dramatic or paranoid, but it's real. And last night was part of that. I stared at her, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. This wasn't cheating. This wasn't a breakup. This wasn't some dramatic relationship meltdown. Something else was happening. Something bigger. Something she was terrified of. She stood suddenly, wiping her hands on her jeans. I shouldn't have come here. I shouldn't have asked you to meet me. They might have. Stop, I said. You need to tell me what's going on. Right now. She shook her head violently. No, not here. Not today. She stepped backward, away from me, nearly stumbling on the gravel. I'll explain, she said. But I need time, and you need to stay away from the apartment for a few days. Don't go back there tonight. Why not? Because they've been there, she whispered, and they might come back. I felt the ground drop under me. What do you mean they've been there? She didn't answer. Instead, she turned and started walking away, fast, almost running. Wait, I called out. Come back. You can't just say that and leave. But she didn't stop. She didn't even look back. And I stood there alone by the river, the sound of the water roaring behind me, the wind slicing through my jacket, and one thought echoing in my skull. What the hell did she get herself into? And why was I suddenly a part of it? I didn't chase her. I probably should have. Every instinct in my body was screaming to run after her, to grab her by the shoulders, to demand real answers instead of cryptic warnings and half-confessions. But my legs wouldn't move. I stood there on the riverfront, like someone had unplugged my entire nervous system. She disappeared up the path and out of sight, leaving me alone with the wind and the sound of water slapping against the rocks. They'd been in the apartment. That sentence wouldn't stop repeating in my head like a glitch. Who the hell was they? And why would anyone be watching her? My first thought was something dramatic and stupid, like she'd somehow gotten mixed up with criminals or some underground something. You read those stories online and think they're exaggerated or made up. And yet, she didn't seem like she was lying. She wasn't dramatic by nature. If anything, she underreacted to everything. But the way she said it, "They've been there," wasn't theatrical or paranoid. It was terrified. I sat there on the bench long after she was gone, trying to figure out what my next move was. Do I call the police? And say what? That my girlfriend thinks she's being watched. No cop would take that seriously without something concrete. And I didn't have anything concrete. I barely had a shape, let alone a full picture. Eventually, I forced myself back to my car. My hand was shaking so badly, I dropped the keys twice before getting the engine started. I didn't want to go home. Her warning about the apartment was drilling into my skull, but I also didn't want to sit around doing nothing. So I drove. Not anywhere specific. Just away from the river, away from the silence, away from the uncertainty. I ended up parking in a grocery store lot 5 neighborhoods away because my brain was too fried to think clearly. I'd been sitting there for about 10 minutes when my phone vibrated. A text. Not from her, though I nearly jumped out of my skin hoping it was. It was my brother again. "Mom's asking if you're coming back today." Right? My mom. The hospital. Real life that didn't stop just because my relationship had morphed into some conspiracy thriller subplot. I typed back. "Yeah, heading there soon." I thought that would ground me, pull me back into something normal. But the second I turned the ignition again, my mind slid right back to the apartment. What if someone really had been inside? Had I missed something? A drawer out of place? A door left slightly open? Something moved? I tried to replay the moment I walked in earlier, but everything was a blur. I'd been so focused on her missing things that I didn't look for anything else. And suddenly, I couldn't help it. I had to go back. I know how stupid that sounds. She literally told me not to go home. She said it like it was urgent, like someone might be waiting there or watching it. Any rational person would have listened. But curiosity, or maybe denial, is stronger than caution. I told myself I'd only check the door. Maybe step inside for 2 minutes, tops, just to make sure nothing was out of place. To see for myself. While I pulled into our parking spot, the building looked painfully normal. Old brick, peeling paint, dead bushes by the entrance. Exactly how it always looked. No unmarked cars. No suspicious figures lurking in the shadows. No reason for my heart to be pounding the way it was. I walked up the stairs slowly, listening for anything, footsteps, voices, even the buzz of the overhead lights. Everything was quiet. When I reached the apartment door, I hesitated. It was closed, locked, completely ordinary. But the longer I stared at it, the more wrong it felt. Like something was off, but I couldn't see what. My hands were sweating so badly, I nearly dropped my keys again. I took a slow breath, braced myself, and unlocked the door. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not a bad smell, just unfamiliar. Like someone had opened a window while I was gone or shifted the airflow. It made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I stepped inside. The apartment was still. Too still. Nothing looked obviously wrong at first. Couch where it should be. Coffee table where it always was. Kitchen light off. No signs of a break-in. But then I turned toward the hallway, and that's when I saw it. The bedroom door. The same one she'd closed when she went to sleep before everything spiraled. Wasn't just ajar. It was open wide. And I knew I didn't leave it like that. I froze and listened. Nothing. Only the hum of the fridge. Every step felt like it weighed 100 pounds as I walked toward the bedroom. My throat was so dry I could barely swallow. I didn't have a weapon, didn't even have a plan, just blind determination and stupidity guiding me. When I moved closer, I saw the second thing that was wrong. One of her dresser drawers, the top one, was pulled out more than it had been earlier. Not fully open, just enough to be noticeable. I hadn't touched that drawer today. I hadn't gone near it. Someone else had. "Hello," I said quietly, then immediately thought, wow, that was dumb. But no one answered, or moved, or breathed loud enough for me to hear. I stepped further in. The room felt ransacked without looking ransacked, like someone searching for something specific, careful not to disturb anything unnecessary. Her jewelry box was open. Her nightstand drawer was slightly out of alignment. Her closet door, half open, shirts pushed aside. Someone had been thorough. And the worst part? It wasn't messy. It was neat. Precise. Whoever did this didn't panic. They weren't rushing. They weren't desperate. They knew exactly what they were looking for. I didn't know whether to feel sick or furious. Maybe both. My phone buzzed in my pocket, making me jump so hard I nearly knocked over a lamp. A text. From her. Are you home? My entire body went cold. I stared at the message, my fingers hovering above the screen. I didn't know what to say. Lie? Tell the truth? Ask if she knew who had been in here? Finally, I typed. Yes. 3 dots appeared immediately. Typing. Then her message came through. Get out. Right now. Another buzz, instantly after. Don't touch anything. Don't look for anything. Just leave. My pulse was pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I took a step backward, then another. I grabbed my keys and bolted out of the apartment like the floor was on fire. I didn't breathe until I was in my car with the doors locked. And even then, I didn't feel safe. Because the moment I exited the parking lot, my phone buzzed again. Not from her this time. A number I didn't recognize. The message was only 4 words. Stop looking. Stop asking. I nearly swerved into the curb. Because whoever sent that, they knew I'd been in the apartment. They knew she'd warned me. They knew everything. And suddenly, her panic made perfect sense. Whatever she was caught up in, whatever she'd been hiding, it wasn't just dangerous. It had already reached me that if you've ever had your entire reality collapse in the span of a day, you'll understand what those next few minutes felt like. If you haven't, well, imagine someone ripping the floor out from under you while whispering in your ear that it's your fault for standing there in the first place. That anonymous message. Stop looking. Stop asking. Turned my blood into ice. I sat in the car, engine running, breathing hard, staring at the text like it might disappear if I blinked. My brain scrambled through every possibility at once. Spam, prank, wrong number, coincidence. But deep down, I knew none of those were real options. Someone knew I'd gone into the apartment. Someone knew I'd seen the drawers, the closet, the signs of someone searching. Someone knew she'd told me to leave. And if they knew that, they knew a hell of a lot more. My instinct was to call her, but my hand was shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. I hit call anyway. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I texted instead. I got a message. From someone else. They know I came home. This time she answered fast. Too fast. Do not text about this again. Turn off your phone. Meet me in person. I stared at those words. My phone, the only connection I had to her, the only thing tethering me to anything familiar. She wanted me to turn it off? But her next message came before I could respond. If you keep your phone on, they can see you. Please, just listen to me. I swallowed hard. She never said, please, like that before. Another message. Go to the park near Elm Street. Sit at the table closest to the fountain. Do not bring your phone. My pulse hammered so loudly it drowned out the world. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to turn off my phone. I didn't want to be dragged any deeper into whatever shadowy mess she'd stepped in. But I also couldn't shake the memory of her face at the river, pale, tight, terrified. So I made a decision that felt more like falling than choosing. I drove 2 blocks away from the park, rolled my window down, stared at my phone one last time, and powered it off. It felt like shutting off a life support machine. The park was nearly empty when I arrived. A couple walking their dog, a kid on a bike, an older man feeding pigeons like a Disney side character. Normal people living normal lives. Meanwhile, I was stepping into something that felt like the prelude to a disappearance. I found the picnic table she mentioned and sat down. The wood was cold under my hands. Every sound made me jump. The wind, the rustle of leaves, the hum of a distant lawnmower. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I started to wonder if I'd been set up. If someone else would show up instead of her. If this was the moment someone would pull up in a van and I'd vanish like a bad news headline. But then, finally I saw her. She approached from the far side of the park, hood up, shoulders tight, scanning everything like she was expecting to be ambushed. When her eyes landed on me, they didn't soften. They sharpened. She sat across from me, keeping her voice low. Thank you for coming. I shouldn't have, I said quietly. I know that now. She winced like that hurt her. I didn't want this. Any of this. But I need to tell you the truth. If I don't, you're going to get hurt anyway. Then tell me, I said. Start from last night. She took a deep breath, one of those bracing breaths people take before jumping into cold water. About a month ago, she began, I found something at work I wasn't supposed to see. My stomach tightened. Found what? She shook her head. Documents. Files. Conversations. It doesn't matter what they weren't mine, and I should have stayed out of it. But I didn't. I couldn't. And when I tried to pretend I hadn't seen anything, it was already too late. Too late how? I got flagged. The word landed like a punch. Someone higher up noticed my access. At first I thought it was just a warning. But then people started watching me, following me, asking questions that didn't sound like questions. My palms were sweating. This isn't some company HR thing, is it? I asked. She laughed once, humorless. No, this isn't corporate drama. This is the kind of thing you read about online and assume it's fake. And last night, they called me, she said, told me I needed to meet with them, told me if I didn't show, they'd come to the apartment instead. I felt my skin crawl. So you went? I guessed. She nodded. I thought I could make it stop. I thought I could explain it away. I didn't plan to stay out all night. I wasn't allowed to leave until they said so. Who are they? I whispered. She looked over her shoulder before answering. I can't tell you that. Not because I don't trust you, because if you repeat the name to anyone, they'll know. And then it won't just be me thereafter. I opened my mouth to argue, but she cut me off. You finding the apartment like that? That wasn't an accident. They knew you'd eventually go back. They wanted to see how much you understood. They wanted to know if I'd told you anything. My breath caught. So they searched the place. They were there right after I left, she said. They didn't take anything. They just wanted to see what you'd notice. And the message? I asked. The one telling me to stop asking? She gave a small, haunted nod. That wasn't from me. They must have known you were inside before I did. I felt a dizzy wave hit me. So what do I do now? Am I in danger? She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything before she even spoke. You need to get out of the apartment, she said. Tonight. Don't pack anything obvious. Don't use your credit cards. Don't go anywhere you usually go. Just lay low for a few days. I'll handle the rest. You'll handle the rest? I repeated, incredulous. You can't even go home. I know, she whispered. But I have a plan. A plan for what? To run? To disappear? No, she said, shaking her head firmly. To finish this. To make it stop. They think I'm scared. They think I'll do whatever they say. But I'm done letting them control me. You're scaring me, I admitted. I'm scaring myself, she said softly. There was a long silence between us. The air felt heavy. Final. Then she stood. I don't know when I'll see you again, she said. I'm sorry for that. But I need you to trust me. Just this once. I trusted you last night, I said quietly. I waited. I worried. I begged you to talk to me. I know, she whispered, tears finally gathering in her eyes. And I'm sorry, but all of this, it's bigger than us. Bigger than apologies. She turned to walk away. Hey, I said, standing too. What if something happens to you? She paused, didn't look back. Then you'll know I tried, she said. And you'll know it wasn't your fault. And just like that, she walked out of the park and out of our life as we knew it. I haven't seen her since that day. I don't know where she is. I don't know who they are. I don't know what she found or why it mattered so much. I only know 3 things. I'm moved out of the apartment. I still get the occasional anonymous text telling me to stay quiet. And every night, I check the bench by the riverfront when I drive by, half expecting, half hoping to see her waiting there. Not because I want answers, but because I want her to be alive. And because somewhere deep down, I'm still waiting for her to finish her sentence from that night. I don't owe you an explanation. Maybe she didn't owe me one, but I still wish she'd given it.